Hello, and how is everybody today? Hopefully I'm not going to experience too many audio problems, but I do happen to have a couple of guests. Joining me today on the Great Debate is Yin Wolf.
Hello.
And Full Metal Joker.
Hello.
And they will be our guests for today. Let me roll some behind the scenes stuff here, and we'll get the board on. Welcome to the Great Debate. Sorry about that. Oops. Again, technical difficulties. I had things set up from yesterday and I forgot to unscrew them up. How are you guys today?
We're good.
I'm doing all right.
Happy Valentine's Day to anyone who cares and or celebrates. Also, I want to say, I believe, happy birthday to Unwanted Reaper. Yeah, I believe that's what the chat is also saying. So everybody give Unwanted Reaper a quick happy birthday. Unholy Mole, you're loved just for showing up.
Happy birthday, Unwanted Reaper.
I will have a drink for you, though I'm not fond of beer. What else do we got? I believe that's everybody today. Thank you, audience, for joining me. And I will apologize to those in the audience yesterday that when we do have two guests and there's plenty to talk about, why doesn't that work right? I'm going to have to fix that. That should work. I apologize if I don't get to the audience as often as I would like when I have guests, because the point is to hear the guest perspective whenever possible. Let's see. I don't remember which one of you was on last, so I'm really not concerned with who picks first. So whoever would like to take the first topic, and we will start shooting down this board.
All right. I guess I'll pick the hot topic of politics.
Political alignment is an outline of the interest of a candidate or a factor of their personality having not much to do with them as a politician.
I would say that. I mean, if you look at, say, Mike Pence, in the past he's talked about the gays and electric shock therapy, but he's never actually done any of that or said any of that as a politician.
All right, but using the same example Mike Pence has in his wisdom and his Republican affiliation said that abortions are wrong and has actually made laws condemning certain types of abortion and abortion practices in his previous state. I think of the state. I want to say Iowa or Ohio or something like that.
Yes, certain types of abortions. Because in some ways, abortions are wrong, but in the others, it's still a life, no matter if it's a contraceptive or not. If it's a life that's disabled or going to be a threat to the mother, then that's the only thing we should really allow. Abortion should be legal.
But do you feel that it's the Republican stance outweighs the individual personality and how they will go about things? Which do you think is stronger, the political affiliation or their individualistic view on things when they're being elected in an office?
I think once you get in, you're pretty much smothered by the party as a whole. You know, resistance is futile and everything. The board elected, as it were.
Joker, what do you think?
It's just one voice.
I personally think that it is their individualistic views that is what gets them elected, because the voter looks at them and goes, you know what? He fits my personal views, and I think he'll do what I want done to help this country grow.
Yeah, but there's a difference between saying, between the person saying what they're going to do and what they can do as the politician.
Yeah, but they have to fit. It's personal their personal views that get them elected.
Yeah, but you know what they say, talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Saying all the right things to get you in the office is all fine. It's what you do in office that really, really matters. Or don't do in office, as the case may be.
Okay, so I want to look at this like this. Let's take an arbitrarily unliked politician. Let's say Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
All right.
Yes.
Donald Trump is a Republican, and on the Republican side of views, they have their outlook on abortion, their outlook on taxes, their outlook on individualism, and how everything should be considered. And the Democrats have a separate view on the same things, which is how they would like them applied to laws in society. When these people are, when they're running for office, they're out there running on a stance of what they say they believe as their personal, this is what I'm doing this for, this is what I'm after, this is what I'm trying to do, but I'm a Republican, and because I'm a Republican, I'm also supporting Republican ties. So, which of these is stronger? The ties to the Republican Party with a universal goal that the Republican Party has adapted and adopted, or their individual personal views and their goals as them becoming a politician? Which one's going to pull more weight with them? Which is going to be their defining factor when they're in office?
I think it's entirely dependent on the person. I think if Donald Trump wants something to happen, he's the kind of guy that can and will make it happen.
But
I think other people.
I guess that the way to put that would be Donald Trump's personal, or the factors of his personality outweigh his political alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on an individual basis, the buzzer's going to go off, just ignore it. On an individual basis, when you look at these politicians and these people running for office, some people are looking at their political affiliation and voting for that, and some people are reading into their personalities and what they want to do and voting for that. So,
yeah, I mean, if you look at Trump, he's been a businessman for nigh on umpteen years. He's been at the top of all his corporations. How many times has he really heard the word no? You think? How many times has he accepted the word no?
Sometimes it's not just about that. It's about, all right, politicians develop this keen knack to take the word no and change the entire meaning of what's being said to where it's a yes. Whereas Donald Trump just flat out his personality is like, no, I'm not taking it.
Yeah. ABC said all politicians are slaves for the Fed. I think, do you mean the federal government?
Say that again?
And if you look in the chat, ABC said all politicals
are slaves for the Fed. No, and I don't want to say that. I will use America for an easy comparison or an easy analogy here. The federal government is made up of the political groups, and while they may have majority or minority in the group, I don't feel that the push actually happens in the government. It happens in the political party affiliations. So when the Republican Party decides to support a Republican candidate, that candidate now owes to the Republican Party. And when you owe to the Republican Party, that means you now have to sit on a phone and do fundraising. You now have a lot of obligations to the party because you're a Republican and they helped you for being a Republican. So I don't think the federal government as a whole plays a part in that. I think it's the parties, the Democratic and Republican and whatnot parties, that create these large affiliations that they sort of try to dictate and control what the outcome's going to be. So yeah, when you look at it, the government is in control, but it's these political parties pushing for the control and the laws and rules that are being put in. And Donald Trump, again, like we said, doesn't seem to be one that aligns with the political party and interests. He aligns with his personal outlook and interests on what should be done. Oh, I love people chatting in here. Criminal and all politicals are in the system of the Fed.
Yes, all the government work for the elite. Who's the elite?
All right.
Does it mean the Illuminati?
I'm trying to think of a way to say this that would make sense. And welcome ABC123XOXO to the chat. You have a wrench now. The government is controlled by the people who run it. And in America's type of candidacy, the government is run primarily by Republicans and Democrats. And the majority of those Republicans and Democrats have to answer to their political party. So is the government then being led by the government, or is it being led by the affiliations the government has? Everybody gets a wrench till I hand out 250 or till I hit 250 subs, something like that. The number 250 is sticking in my mind. Everybody gets a wrench, and then you guys are all my long-term viewers. I can respect you more than the rest. Did I say that out loud? Oops.
Shall we change?
Yeah, we're going to head back. I believe it's on you to pick this time, Yin?
I just well, since we're on government.
Government. A smaller government would have less problems getting things done, however, would be more abrasive to its constituents.
Could you rephrase that in a way I could understand?
Okay, we both live in countries that have enormously large governmental structures, and those large governmental structures end up leading to a lot of bureaucracy that takes time and money and sometimes seeming too much effort to get through. If the government were smaller, decisions could be made and things would be made simpler to allow for a smaller government to rule. However, when you create a smaller government, you're putting more burden on them to try to satisfy a larger division of the population. So having a big government, it breaks down to where somebody is responsible for an area and then somebody else is responsible for a group of areas, and it just keeps continuing upwards. Well, with a smaller government, fewer people would be responsible for larger areas. So the amount of unrest from a decision made in the government would be a larger amount of unrest for the government to take. So a smaller government would be more abrasive to its constituents because it can't always do what it needs to do on a small scale for some people. It has to look out for the large scale for the majority of the people.
Well, if you look at, say, two governments, a big one and a small one, look at America, it's pretty much got itself covered. All their police everywhere protecting the citizens. There's laws in place everywhere. And everyone's protected by the Constitution and the laws. If you look at, say, North Korea, that's quite a small government, isn't it? And everyone's at pretty much the whims of the dictator.
Right, so it's a more abrasive, you could say, because the decisions made may not be supported by the group, but because it's a small government, they can make the decisions faster and are able to move forward with them.
Yes, it all depends, because there are a lot of governments. It depends on who's at the top.
It really does depend on how it's run. Yes, but a government is a government. when you have to go through multi-levels and you have to make decisions going through different channels, and then there's layers to all of that. So let's say I want to do something in my county, and I have to pay county taxes, state taxes, and if it's something that's federally taxed, I have to pay federal taxes. And having all of these layers means I have a lot more to abide by, makes it more difficult for me. But if there was only one layer, it would be simpler, but the fight would be more difficult because the rules would be more laid out.
That's why I believe that there's a point of no return. Whereas for big and small government, there's that area in the middle where it's the best. I honestly have to say that America is leading off that center point, and North Korea is way off that center point.
In
and
opposite
the best
directions,
form of government, and the best form of government is not too much, not too little, but somewhere in the middle, where it's not so big that the bureaucracy is out of control, and you have to talk to someone to get to have an audience with someone in order to get an audience with someone else until you have the audience with the right person to get what you need done. But you don't want an extremely small government where it's in the hands of a handful of corrupt officials.
I absolutely agree. And let's use Korea versus America. Let's say America decides that we need to take a large parcel of land and turn it into something, let's say some sort of solar field to increase our energy capacity, okay? Let's just use that as an example. If Korea wants to do it, they say, we want a solar field, we want it here, start. If America wants to do it, we have to go, okay, we want a solar field, we think this is a good idea. Okay, we have to set this up, pass it down to this group. This group has to look at it, identify whether it's this, this, and that. Then they have to pass it off to this group for approval. Then it has to get passed off to this group to hire somebody to do it. Then it has to get passed off to this group to fund somebody to do it. And it just has to.
And then it has to be passed off to a group of area to investigate the area to make sure that doing so in that area is one environmentally friendly and economically feasible.
Right. You keep adding more layers to the government, it makes things take longer and more difficult to do. But then you take too many layers away from the government, things can happen quickly, things are efficient, but they might not necessarily run in the direction that the constituents or the population want it to.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look at the chat here. I'll go back up to the big smiley face row with hearts. The beautiful government can kiss my ass. I'm an anarchist. Anarcho-capitalism, anarcho-communism, anarcho-socialism, or anarchist general. The government will kill you.
Yeah,
agreed.
I want to know. Which portion of anarchical, whatever he is.
Anarcho, yeah.
Before I ask this question, I have a question for him.
There are a lot of laws there for a reason. They're there to protect me from being killed, or meant to be, or attacked. A lot of those are stopped for, but at least a punishment will be met out for those who break the law.
Right.
But some laws are dumb, like that.
All right, and again, the more layers you add, the more complicated you make it. Let's say John Smith kills Joe Brown, and John Smith goes to court. Now you have layers and layers and layers of the judicial system that allow John Smith that if he can find something in the fact that let's say we all know he did it, but if he can find something that was done wrong in all of the layers, he gets off of committing or serving time for the crime. So again, you get back to the larger it is, the more complicated it is, the smaller it is, the simpler it is. Smaller government would have fewer responsibilities. That really depends on whether
with,
you're talking about the size of the government or the responsibility of the government.
so going by what you said there, isn't it? You said that with due process, the more layers there are, the more likely easy it is for something to go wrong and that person to get acquitted or let off.
Yes.
Right? You said
it works both ways, obviously.
Yeah. So what would you think of a government style like Judge Dredd?
Honestly, I don't think that would be any better. And it's really hard to decide where do you draw the line between a balance of control versus responsibility and an impartial alignment of responsibility and control.
ABC 123. Yeah, it's not the law of the government for the people. But see how the American system works. I don't know if you're in America or not. If you don't like said law, you can petition for the change of said law, and if you have enough people to a petition against the law, you can easily have it changed. There is ways to change things that you don't like in the government without using force.
Right.
That's how our government is made.
But if you were to go over to Kim Jong-un, it would take more than just somebody trying to say something to do it. It would take an active revolt.
Well, of course.
Right. So,
and that's the problem with the too small of a government.
Right.
Is yes, it's down to a handful of people, and let's just imagine if those handful of people become corrupt. Then no amount of petitioning will work because all they'll do is say no. Best case scenario, kill you on the worst case scenario.
All right, I'm going to go up the chat here and hit something before it gets too far away because it's a pet peeve of mine. Where did it go? Smaller governments have, I read that one. Proofs, a government of one. No, that's not it. Tax is criminal. Tax is not law. Fuck the system. Tax can fuck off. Hashtag fuck tax. That right there. In America, technically, taxation is against the law, but they have written in amendments that allow taxation on certain principles. The problem is that because they've allowed such taxations, they keep increasing the amount that they're able to tax and take away on. And again, there's so many layers that in the United States, you get taxed by the federal government, the state government, the township or county that you live in some cases, and even by villages if you live in them. You get taxed for your fire department. You get taxed for your school. You get taxes for the roads, which is your property taxes when you own property.
Which is, and if you don't like taxes so much, petition to cut some of these programs, because guess what? Some of these federally and state-run programs have to be paid for somehow. So if you don't like these taxes, petition the removal of some of these useless programs that we have.
It's not just the useless programs. It is the misuse of the tax code. So let's say, for instance, average sales tax for an area were 10%. That varies from state and county to state and county. It literally does. But let's say 10% just to make a round easy number. I can go buy a TV for $1,000, pay 10% on tax. That's going to cost me $1,100. Cool. I go buy a home for $100,000. My tax on paying for that home is not $10,000. The tax on that home is roughly 3% every single year you own the home. So if you
found it interesting with tax.
Say that again.
Tax. With tax. Well, with government and their money, the American government at least, I've always found it interesting. They say, "Oh, we can't afford to fix these roads. We can't afford to pay the schools. Can't afford that," and yet they can always find money for new war machines and going to war.
Yeah. Schools are a funny one because I know that in my house, which is not $100,000, I paid $1,000 to school taxes last year, which was just shy. It's like almost 1.5% of the value of my house. Not quite. No, about just shy of one. Somewhere around 1% of the value of my house is the school taxes. And then the school decides that they want to do an improvement to update and improve their campus. And that's going to be several $1,000,000. So the tax increase goes in for the improvement. Then a few years down the road, once the improvement's done and paid for, the tax increase stays there to cover more improvements, but then they increase taxes again 5 or 6 years down the road to do another improvement. And that's where it just doesn't make sense to me. The taxes keep going up, but we don't see anything more or different from them. It's just that we're losing more money, and there's no cap on what they're allowed to take.
Yep.
But we're way off topic there. I don't like taxes, so let me get back through here. Unwanted Reaper with his comment, because I can't ignore this guy. He loves the show. Time up, by the way. Time for sex. I will say, since I saved this every show since I put it on, I guess, it seems to be the daily picked category, because who doesn't like a little sex in their lives? Prude.
Asha, to my turn?
No,
I want to say it's Joker.
Okay, I will choose the the
alphabet.
LGBTQ. Yeah, the alphabet.
Fewer people care about the makeup and characteristics of the LGBTQ+, as it tries to grow to encompass more diversity. I will get sex
agree.
for you before we're done with the show, Reaper. Don't worry.
I firmly agree with this. They've grown to the point where people are going, oh great, another alphabet snowflake, yay! But back when it was just a handful of letters to talk about to premise the sexual minority, they had a good standing. Now it's just really.
This thing is as well that trans isn't really sexuality. It's an identity, a way of life, rather an identity at least. And not all trans people are lesbian or bisexual.
No, and that's where you have to get in and take the LGBTQ+ alphabet community and go, okay, well, this letter is a sexuality, and this letter is a distinction, and this letter is a feeling, and this letter is what's this letter doing here? It has nothing to do with the rest. And they seem to, let's look at their flag improvement from last year. I say that sarcastically, where they added 2 new colors to the flag to try and encompass more people. So if you're a community that has to do with your orientation and your alignment and whatnot, what does your color have to do with that? And that brought some people... So hold on 1 second, and I'll let you go. That brought some people to realize that at this point, they're just trying so hard to get more people in their group that there's no point in paying attention to it, because nobody can understand what the group is anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, here, I just say, you can see as well where other groups have tried, a particular group have tried to latch on. That's the pedophiles. They've tried to latch on to the LGBT group.
Yeah. Thinking that it will help them.
And whatever. And I have to ask, what in the world is wrong with keeping your sexual orientation in the bedroom where it belongs? Because I don't see a bunch of straight guys walking around going, "Yeah, I'm straight and I want me some women." Well, yeah, they do, but they're drunk. They're drunk at the time, and that don't count.
The argument I hear today is be thankful that you don't have to. here's the thing: the parades, which were originally fun, they were meant to show the Christians at the time that gays weren't this evil thing they're out to, change their children or rape their daughter or whatever. That they were just their normal people. But now it's evolved into just pretty much a sex fest where you get a guy in an Indian feather hat going around with just a sock in his cock, thinking he's representing everything, or you get the woman leading fucking men on chains down like dogs or whatever. Or
I have to say it's certainly gotten confusing. Let's say confusing.
Yeah.
It's hard to sometimes, and it seems more and more prevalent. I'm okay with it. I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with how some people want to label and push it. But I walk to the grocery store a couple times a week, at least once or twice a week. I see somebody in there that would fall under the, let's say, non-conforming. I've seen a few different guys that wear dresses, cross-dressers. I can't say though I've been able to spot women dressing as, or women trying to be men, but I do see a lot of what is the word for a woman who keeps their hair short and doesn't really wear earrings? There's a word for it. A what?
Tomboy.
Yeah. But there's another word for it. There is another word for it besides tomboy. And yeah, not quite butch, not like quite manly female, but as in not showing the female characteristics for being a woman. And you see that and it's like you're not even attractive. Androgynous. Yeah, they're more androgynous. And it's almost like a turnoff to me because they don't have anything that seems to be appealing. I like the long hair and the characteristics, and when they walk around with the short manly cuts and the baggy clothes and you can't tell, it doesn't draw my attention.
I will say this, that lesbian women seem to be a bit more accepted than gay men do. There was this experiment done where two gay men were just like sitting on a bench, enjoying themselves, minding their own business, and I've seen some things like guy going by, get a room, kid, get a room, you used to, or someone even called the police on them at one point.
Yeah.
And
I think that's more down to individual personality, though. I mean, overall, it might have a statistically proven, but
they only got away with it because they were, this is a social experiment. I'm betting if there was no cameras or that policeman would have ushered them on at, like, maybe even at gunpoint. So I think lesbian women are a bit more accepted. I think that's just because men are more pervy and they enjoy the view.
Like, yeah. Like I said, I look.
And women don't really care as much. You know what I mean?
I gotta get a woman on the show for one of these questions. We're gonna have to get some good intel going on. I'm trying. I'm reaching out as I meet new people. We can do one of two things. We can go back to Yin picking the fourth topic, or we can allow Unwanted Reaper to have as his birthday wish seems to be. Or they can both be the same thing, however.
Oh, I say let him pick.
You want to let Reaper have his sex topic? Happy birthday,
yeah.
Reaper.
ABC and Dark Sasuke are both women.
Wonderful. I love women. I love me some women. All right.
I like
sex. Both. Women are predominantly...
I want to know something, ABC. Why is it that when a man cheats, it's his fault, and when a woman cheats, it's still the man's fault? There's a question.
Ouch. All right, let me read this off, and then we'll roll with it. Women are predominantly more submissive than men. Both usually accept this. Is this a natural order or a bred-in trait over generations?
Naturally more submissive than men. I have to say, wrong. So
I would
wrong.
have to,
I've seen so
I would,
many cases where the woman is walking and the man is going, yes, dear.
yeah, but I would say it's also a bred-in trait. If you look at our closest ancestors, the great apes, the males are sexually dominant. But again, it is also to do with the person in these modern times. Because if you look, and also the way they're brought up, if you look at, say, Islam, nearly all the women are submissive, while all the men are pretty much dominant. But in this free society with so many people, there is going to be humongous differences in personality, and I think that's going to be a part of our own evolution. So I think it used to be a lot of men were dominant, women were submissive, but I think with the rise in many different people, it's going to change.
Oh, I agree that the roles will change in slight manners through time. Um, I want to say, let's see, I am not submissive, and neither is my husband, so we butt heads a lot. Okay, let's use personal story here. My wife and I have a pretty even relationship. She takes care of certain things, I take care of certain things. Neither one of us would really be the head of the household if you watched us operate. However, we both have like a whispered agreement that if I say something and she says something and they contradict, 9 times out of 10, we're going to go with what I say over what she says. But that's not necessarily just because I'm the man of the house and she's the woman of the house. It really kind of has to do with the fact that I can take my time and look at things differently than she does, and she realizes that given the outcome we've already had, that my decisions are usually more correct, more often the right ones than hers. And so we've come to an understanding over time that, you know, what I say more predominantly will have a higher effect than what she says in the house. And that, not evenly, but it does correlate in the bedroom where more often than not, I get what I asked for and she just wants something. It's not a... She would rather be submissive. But again, it comes down to individual personality. More women these days have less of a submissive personality, but is it there because they got used to it, or is it there because that's what they're keyed into? How do you want to look at this?
Well, if you look at, say, what do we call it? Say, chimpanzees, right? And because they're apes like us, they have a male can't really get to the top without the female support. And while he is at the top, and he gets all the best food and all that, his pick of the ladies. If the women don't like him, he's out. He's gone.
Right.
So while men might be a lot of men may be more dominant sexually, when it comes to the household, women usually do rule the roost. They rule the village. They rule the house. It's men that go out and bring in the money, and it's women that pretty much rule the house. I mean, you see it in the olden days of the cartoons, the kind of women with the rolling pins and the peonies and
okay, so
telling the men what to do.
Here's a fair question. So you want to refer that to the older days, and you want to kind of use the let's use the bred in part of this.
Right.
Women were at home. the home was their responsibility. The man would take care of things outside the home or any hard repairs, but it was the woman's responsibility to make sure everything inside the home ran right. And it was the man's to make sure
That's
that
right.
there was the appropriate things there to run the household correctly.
Yes, I don't think there's really a dominant submissive because outside the home the male would make the decisions, and inside the home it would be the woman's job. And sexually, I think whatever they decided with each other.
So you think this is more of a you to try and understand this correctly and kind of come to a term on this. You want to say that it is a natural order that has become bred into generations and it's slowly being bred out.
Yeah, I would say so because if you look at our closest relatives, the apes, right? The males they take care of the group. They say where to go, when to eat, when to sleep. They protect the tribe. But the women, they control the children. They control who's at the top. They control. They get their say basically. And the men more often than not work hard to please the women.
That's very true. So, lots of different ways to look at that. Let's take a quick look at the chat before I let Yin pick the next category. The system teaches kids to be satanic people. Somewhat similar situation. So, while you understand that some people, just because you're a submissive person does not mean you're necessarily submissive in all aspects of your life.
No, I think that's for. I think that's right. But women,
When I
there's
say
no.
this, there's a lot of powerful women that realize or have an understanding with their partner that when they're home that what he says goes. But at the same
Yeah,
time,
and
it can work the opposite direction where you have the woman that has the power and what she says goes. It just didn't
yeah,
used to be as common as it is.
and there's women here out there who rule the house with like an iron fist with a velvet glove. As soon as that bedroom door closes, they love to be thrown in the bed, hair grabbed, and ridden like a horse.
Yeah, we've had that discussion before in here on this exact same category. Uh, let's see. Just look at any kind of mess and make sure the house stays clean. Yeah, actually, you know what? I have to say that I will put this out there again and again. Just because I put something on the board, just because I word it in a specific way to be opposite of my views or align with my views, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with anything I have on the board. And I'm willing to discuss how I feel about it. But the reason I put it on the board, sometimes in ways against how I feel, is to produce that thought that it's against how somebody else feels to see what their reaction's going to be. Unwanted Reaper, hit exclamation bones. You can only gamble the amount that you have.
And if you look at the olden days as well, there were women who were quite dominant in the room. If you read them like Robbie Burns' Ode to a Hen-Picked Husband, there's even kind of pictures of women with their rolling pins backing their husbands. So it's not really a new thing for strong, dominant women.
I'm going to
And there
try
was
something.
cases of of women beating their husbands.
I don't know if this will work, Reaper, but let's try it. I'm still learning how this all goes, but if this works, I just gave you 100 bones for your birthday.
So
If it doesn't work, I'll figure out how to do it later.
let's try and finish. Let's try and for the first time finish a line. I'll go mainstream media.
Mainstream media. Do you feel the news is showing too much fluff to fill time that could be spent showing an opposing view to stories they are covering?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Great. We're in agreement. Next topic.
This one was definitely an easy one to throw up there. I've had this one up there for a bit. Nobody's picked mainstream media because it's a hot topic. It's not always a pressing issue. It did get brought up either in yesterday or the day before show when we were discussing how the news. It was yesterday's show. How the news tries to breeze over the topics and then replays them over and over and over again. And it seems like that time could be better spent if they would go over their viewpoint. And I do watch some of the Tucker Carlson clips that the Newshound does. If he does kind of look at the other viewpoint, but when it comes to looking at the opposing viewpoint, it never seems like there's enough time to cover the opposing viewpoint because they have to always move on. There's plenty of time in the day. There's plenty of news coverage cycle to be able to expand on these stories. But instead, sometimes they'll use 3 or 4 minutes to fill it up with supporting facts of what they're saying as opposed to going, well, let's look at the opposing view a little harder. Then again,
I mean, there's lots of stupid stories out there, like our dance was too sexual for 3-year-olds, or that was an actual topic on this morning
on Twitter last night.
Or men calling women darling and hello, sir.
Are you black enough to watch the Black Panther?
Yeah. Who gives a fuck?
Don't watch that pile of feces.
Don't watch what?
The pile of fecal matter. Shit.
Sorry, can I just say, Jokey, you're a little bit quiet.
Oh, I am?
A little bit. Can you turn them up any?
I don't know if it's so much that he's quieter that I'm loud. I can back away from the mic a little bit here. Relax, my lazy boy.
No, it's just it sounds a little muffled.
So is yours. It might be Hangouts.
Alright, okay. I think that's just my voice, to be fair.
TV is a lie and an illusion. Agreed and disagreed. How could anyone believe that cheating is good? Is it agreed upon cheating? It's not cheating if you agree upon it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's kind of going to be a short topic. I'm all right with cutting out of it. I should have worded that a little better. I should have put some more ability for viewpoint there as opposed to a just straight situation.
Mary Joker, what are you going for?
Okay, now let's see. Okay, well, let's pick the easy topic of toys.
And Yin was like, we were going to clear a row. When did the quality of products begin to mean less than the producer as well as begin to mean less to the producer as well as the consumer?
Well, I mean, you see, I think really with the invention of the slimline phone, if you look at the older phones, they were hard. They could take a beating. Now, if you skim your phone across the ground, you can damage something.
And I really have to say it started the quality of toys. I'd have to say around the mid 80s, early 90s. That's when people really didn't care too much about the quality, and the producers really didn't care about the quality as long as they were pumping out toys to meet the demands.
Right. There are a few products that you can almost say the quality has remained consistent. It could partially be because of the producer-consumer relationship there. But we all know about Legos. Let's use a generic toy everybody's heard about. Legos haven't changed for the most part in, 29, 30 some odd years that they've been mass produced. It's been more than that. It's been almost 50 years, I want to say. 60s or 70s they were originally created. In the time they've been around and produced, the product hasn't changed much. The thickness of a Lego, the composition, the durability has not changed. But on the market, you have other products that are Lego-like, that will connect with Lego, but you can tell it's got a different type of plastic that's thinner, and it's not thinner in size, but it's weaker thinner. You can bend the Lego in your hand, whereas a real Lego you can't. And Lego, the brand. Say it again.
10th of August, 1932.
32? Why was I thinking it was like 60 something? So it's been almost 100 years. Damn. But the side brands, these ones that come up and try to compete with Legos, the quality of their product is lower. And the only way they can sell more is by lowering the price. But you still don't see them competing with Lego because they haven't reduced their quality. So let me look back at my question to relate what I was saying.
Yeah, generic Legos are for the ones that can't afford the original Lego, because the cost of Legos have increased, but their quality has stayed the same.
Okay, and then you have other toys like, what's a good brand? Fisher-Price. They put out kids' toys all the time, and the price stays relatively the same, but then it falls apart.
What are we talking about when we say quality, by the way?
The durability of the toy, the longevity of their product,
Yeah, let's use durability as a pretty defining factor. Thank you, Sasuke. I got you your red terrapin.
You can see it in phones as well. When they started making phones thinner and thinner, they became weaker and weaker and easier to damage.
Yeah, yes. I can remember.
I once had a K800i, and I kept dropping it on the concrete, and it was fine.
Okay, so let's
pull back. I had the old.
Now, when did we hit a point where the quality did not matter as much as the price?
I'd have to say, like I said earlier, the mid 80s to early 90s.
When people really wanted to make the money rather than enjoy the quality of the work. If it's something that breaks after a while, they'll go back out and buy another one. So you want to make something that doesn't last too long enough that they think it's still a good quality, but short enough that what do we call it? That they'll come back, that will break, and they'll come back and buy another one. It's all about the money.
All right. I want to say, interjecting, let's let the buzzer go off here in a second first. I want to say, when you look at capitalism, you could have 50 different people release their own version of the same product. Their own version of a Lego. The quality of the product might change 50 times between these 50 producers. And then, obviously, one of those 50s is going to be the Lego brand. Now, all of the rest of them are going to be cheaper, maybe comparative in price to each other, but that Lego brand's going to be slightly more expensive. It's not necessarily up to the producers, the makers of the product, to decide that the Lego brand is better because of its quality, disregarding the price of it. It is up to the consumer willing to pay that slight bit more for a product that's going to last longer or be better in the long run. So at some point, consumers came to an understanding that they don't care how well the product is constructed, how durable it is, and the length of use. They care that they can have the product when everybody else has it.
Yeah, but not the higher the price doesn't always mean the better the product. For example, does anyone remember that guy who had the pill that was for, I think it was cancer or AIDS or something, and he was selling it like 400 odd a pill, and he was demonized for that.
Yeah.
And another company came up with a similar pill for like $40.
That's market competition. But that's using two of the comparable items. And when you get into pills, it's different because they're regulated. But then you're looking at the construction, the makeup, the quality of the chemicals used in the pill might play a part into the price.
The old saying, you get what you pay for, not always necessarily.
True. EpiPens used to be $600, but they only cost $80 to make. But because they were the one on the market, they were paid $600 to have them. But that's separate from toys because EpiPens are kind of a health requirement, not a frivolous.
Also, when it comes to medical products, there is so much regulation. The market cannot be flooded with medical products. There's only a handful of people producing said cure, so those handful of people can charge what they want. But with toys, someone can make something like said toy as long as it's not a exact duplicate. They can put it out on the market, and thus causing prices to fluctuate. So you can get toys relatively at a better deal than you can with medicine.
Yep, Ragnarok agrees with the mid-'80s. That's when the collection boom happened. I agree. That's when, mid-'80s are where a lot of games and kid stuff, Magic, Pogs, trading card games. There was a whole bunch of stuff that came out in the 80s, and everybody wanted to take part in it. And because it was a huge advertising boom, everybody's like, well, I got to have it if everybody else has it. And then since then, I think, agreeing with both Ragnarok and I want to say it was Full Metal, since the 80s, everything is just slowly going down where a few companies still want to give you the quality product to fight the cheapness of product. But it's really hard to narrow it down, but I will agree with somewhere around the 80s.
Do you think that the quality, the stuff that they make now is better for the environment, though?
No.
Even though it is better?
I think it's worse. I think that running products at a lower quality is worse for the environment. For instance, I helped a friend move out of his apartment to another state. He had to load a U-Haul. He had just, for his daughter's birthday in September or August, had bought her hundreds of dollars worth of toys. 3/4 of those toys, because of the cheap plastic and or paper cardboard construction of them, ended up in the dumpster. So I don't see how that would be better for the environment if you're throwing away things that you continuously break and repurchase.
I see.
I like adult toys, Mole. I love them. We talked about them once.
Oh, what kind of adult toys are we talking there, Skull?
It's not just call it.
One of my favorite ones. It sounds like it should light up and doesn't. There you go.
Are we talking about the pocket puss or the butt plug?
No, the flashlight.
Oh yes, the pocket.
My wife even likes having one of those in the house. No, I'm not in the mood. All right, well then go grab that and come over here, hon. Okay, fine. All right.
We are at our hour soon.
All right, that's enough of that one. It is now 10 o'clock. Oh, this show is sometimes a little off the rails, but it's okay. It's okay. All right, what do we got in the chat going? Unholy Mole knows what I'm talking about. What about the adult? Oh, I did not forget about adult toys. We covered that. I'll move up. My kid got a peanut allergy. I love-hate relationship with the EpiPen. Yes, the EpiPen.
Since we're on about quality, do people think the quality of buildings has gone down compared to the older ones? Do
Um,
we think the newer ones are worse quality than the newer ones, or better quality than the newer ones?
all right, so while our construction techniques have advanced and increased for stability and sturdiness, regardless of the components we've used, it seems that we've almost lost a little bit of the stability of the components used outside. So when you build a bridge or a building or any infrastructure, you start with a iron or steel frame, girders, ties, cables, and rebar, and then you concrete around all of that. Now, all of that rebar and steel and everything should be, for the most part, just fine because it's been treated with the chemicals that don't allow the lime and water to get into the metal to degrade the metal. But the chemicals used for concrete and seem to have changed in the last 10, 15 years or more to make the concrete almost less stable, to make it easier to break up and pull away. So while the building may not lose much structural stability, a crack in the concrete is still a crack in the concrete, and it does take away from that. And it seems like the concrete of the structures is where the instability is. It's where the problem is. It seems like the concrete isn't as strong as it used to be. That when we build things...
Dark Sasuke says, I saw a warehouse being built with pre-made components, and within 2 years, it has to be repaired.
Right. We can make things faster and stronger, but they're not necessarily going to last as long. When I lived out in Sacramento, I was working down in Rancho Cordova, which is a huge industrial area outside of Sacramento. And they would build most of their warehouse buildings like that. They'd bring a bunch of equipment in, they'd level out the field, they'd put all the lines in underground, they'd lay out the concrete for the pad, and then on top of the pad, they'd lay down a bunch of equipment, pour a wall, lift the wall, set it and bolt it, pour another wall, lift it, set it and bolt it. And I want to say in 3 years, they were down there patching the walls. So, while they can do it faster, and it's structurally sound and reinforced on the inside much better than it was, the concrete seems to be what's falling apart here. We're not putting enough effort in making the concrete last longer, and that's what's allowing everything to still fall apart faster. If that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
I think that somewhere along the way, something was removed from the way we make concrete, and it has caused maybe something that we use to help dry it, maybe the lime in it, maybe some of the chemicals that we add to it to cause it to dry and be stable also make it frail once it is completely cured out.
I can see what you're saying.
Subpar material in the concrete. Yeah, I would say something like that. Either they're using something different or they stopped using something. For instance, we all know that in America, asbestos was used in a lot of houses to help with insulation, and lead was used to help make sure paint would last longer and other things like that. As we realize that some of these components might have health effects that would be adverse to us, we stop using them. We create restrictions on them. And by doing that, you have to look for alternatives, and the alternatives might not necessarily have the same stability as the components we originally used. Why are... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was watching a documentary on the Twin Towers, and they said that in between the buildings was meant to be this material that was quite fire resistant. But when the planes crashed into them, the shock wave kind of blew them away, and the rest of it kind of just crumbled.
All right, when you started talking, you had me all confused. I didn't just watch a documentary on it. I was actually in a design course when the towers came down. So at the end of that year, we had to do a design analysis on the Twin Towers. We had to write out a report based on the design analysis. all of the I-beams and the structural support and the concrete on the inside of the building all had a specially designed chemical foam so that if a fire or something happened in the building, it would help keep the fire in certain areas. The age of the building and the materials all combined together, slow degradation in that case. When the planes hit, you have to think of the concussive force. Vibrating that building, anything that's not still completely attached, anything that's not bolted or cemented together, and even if it is, if it's hit with enough concussive force, it's just going to crack and crumble. And what happened was, in large areas of the building, that coating and the fire suppression support, the stuff that was sprayed, mostly up and down the elevator shafts and the stability shafts in the buildings, all basically crumbled and fell down through the shaft. That's what allowed some of the fires to spread faster. Not just that, but the amount of heat from the jet fuel in certain areas melted some of the steel I-beams and the frame of the building. The problem with the towers were the way that they were built. Imagine building let's use Legos again. Imagine building a square Lego house and putting almost nothing down the center. And then you build another one that's smaller and you set it inside and you structurally frame the two of these together. Well, the elevator chutes were in the middle of the building. And the building was basically a square built inside a square, and they were attached to each other, and that was the stability. So when the building began to crumble, it crumbled inward in between. And I'd have to look back at my report. This was like, damn, this was a while ago. But the way the building crumbled was because of the way it was designed. It wasn't designed to crumble, obviously, but because of the...
And that's why it fell straight inwards rather than tipping over.
Yes, it didn't really go straight inwards. What had happened was the heat at the top had caused it to be frail that... that's a good way to explain this. Layer by layer, the floors fell onto each other, and they weren't able to hold the change because of the structural support of the building through the center.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, well. ABC's 9/11 was an inside job. And data says you're so wrong.
Yes, I'm sure there's way more to it than that. I wrote this report so long ago. The four main elevators were in a shaft. I want to say it was four main elevators were in a shaft that went right up the center of the building. And there was a structural support frame around the main elevator shafts. And it was that one and the outer frame and the supports between them that were the stability of the building. I could be very wrong. I'll have to pull out my report. I didn't go into the part of the design. I went into the... oh, where the hell do I even have that? I thought I had it here at my desk just a couple weeks ago. I was looking at it. It's probably in that pile over there. I'm not looking for it right now. I'll have to pull it out for another show maybe. I'll go over, read through one of my old reports. The two buildings on the bottom were double and triple the strength of the one on the top. Alright, I'm gonna have to look at that. Now I feel bad being wrong. I don't like being wrong. I haven't really looked at the Twin Towers since, like, I think it was 2002 I finished that report.
Wow.
But we're well over the hour. We're just jibber-jabbering at this point. So, let's do our goodbyes. Thank you so much for showing up, guys. Do you have anything you want to have anybody check out?
No, not just yet.
Are you still working on something new, are we?
Yeah.
All right. I look forward to it. Joker, how about you?
Well, I have to say, once my video editor figures out the software where we can record on Discord, I will be producing content. Also, I like to give major props to someone that's on Discord by the name of Fantasy Fanatic, who will be doing my artwork once I start doing content.
I think I have heard of them.
I will say you should
And
get.
and the other person, my editor, goes by the name of Unchained. He produces content as well. You should look him up. He produces great content.
Yeah, he just left my Discord last week. Or is he still there? I think he left, but he'll be back.
No,
Maybe.
I would say you should get Data Wasteland on Skull and debate with him about the towers.
We can do that. I don't know if it'd be a debate as much as I'll pull out my report and we'll chat about what we know, because it certainly is interesting, because when they were built, they were a marvel of the time, and the size and the ability of the building to withstand the wind forces and everything down there, it's just amazing.
Don't forget, the Tower of Babel was a marvel of its time as well. Look what happened to that.
Yeah. Right. I'm looking to see if I missed anything of importance in the chat. I deliver a 97% rate of delivery and get 2%, and that's not even my fault. I'm lost on that. It must have been a chat going on that I missed. Oh, here we go. Data Wasteland. When you select roofing, you can get 50-year material or 30-year material. Back in the day, stuff was overbuilt, but now it is all about getting the most from the least. Agreed.
I read that they were designed to take a plane slightly smaller than a 747. The 747s were built after the Twin Towers, so they were bigger than what was intended.
Yeah.
And they were. I think the builds came before the 747.
I will say, I may be misspoken about it being an elevator shaft, but I want to say somewhere in the design, the easiest way to correlate explaining it would be straight up the center of the building, there was a structural support. Imagine looking at it over top. It was a square inside a square. There was the frame of the building was the outer structural support, and there was an inner structural support segment that if you looked over top of them, it was a square inside a square. I could be wrong, completely wrong about the elevator shaft part of it, but I want to say that the structural design, I may be explaining it incorrectly, but it was a square inside a square, and then that's how the structure of the building was designed.
Hey, are you willing to come on Skull's channel and talk about this? I think Skull would have you on, wouldn't you?
It was a tower in a tube. Something like that.
I think that would be quite cool.
Nothing explains the vanishing cores near the ground. We will have to chat about this. Maybe I'll do a stream later today and just have you come in and shoot the shit. Get hold of me, Data.
I will actually watch that, so let me know if that's happening.
Yeah, I tend to send everything out on Twitter, and I try to send it out on Discord when I do things. I was looking at maybe doing a chatter stream this afternoon. I'm not sure what about, but this would be a perfect thing to talk about here.
Yeah, well, I follow you anyway, so I shall see you on Twitter then.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I can ramble forever, so let's get some music playing here and see our way out. Have a good day.
Thank you.